First message of a brand new year. That's always a fun one. I thought, why not go with the first chapter in the book of Psalms for our first Sunday? And I thought, hey, why not do the entire chapter? So that's what we're going to do. All 6 powerful verses. We're going to do the whole first chapter of Psalms. Now, when we get to Psalms 119, that might be a little bit more difficult. But for today, I think we can cover this whole thing in one shot. We're going to start out, I titled this, The Message, plain and simple, because that's really what it is. It's the message for you today, and I hope to make it plain and simple, but it's our message to the world as well. If you've ever just sat and wondered, what as a Christian should I be doing out there? That's a good question. I hope you do wonder sometimes. And we have some glimpses of little nuggets of what to do out there. Like to love justice, to walk humbly with our God. And we have this. In Psalms 1, and I think Bob actually brought up a verse earlier today that was pretty good about letting our light shine before men. There's a good thing to go off into the new year with. But I want to encourage you to look at Psalms 1 as well. Look at this, in the very first verse. It says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, or sits in the seat of scoffers." Blessed. Now, we Christians, we toss that around a lot. Blessed. And I hope you use that word a lot. I'm blessed. It's a blessed day. We're blessed when we get a parking place close to Walmart. All kinds of ways to be blessed. Now, the word, if you go and look it up in the dictionary, this word that's interpreted as blessed, most simply put, it means happy. But what goes into that happiness? It's about living in this state of being in the grace, the mercy, and the favor of God. Those things generate a joy in our life, a true happiness. It goes beyond just situational stuff, but knowing that we are kind of walking with God and having that inside of us that allow us to face just about anything. And in this coming year, we may get to face just about anything. And so maybe we should be ready for it. And so this is how you get blessed. And it starts off with the things you don't do to get blessed. You don't walk in the counsel of the wicked. Now that's some churchy stuff there. What does that mean? Well, that's about who you take advice from, guys. That's about who you choose to pattern yourself after. You have a ton of bad examples out there in the world right now to pattern your life after. And young people do as well. But who are you going to follow? What's your attitude going to be? Who are you going to follow? That's important. But you see, the man who is blessed, who is happy, who is walking in the presence and the power of God, is not getting his advice from wicked people that don't know God. And now you might think, well, that's easy. And I think in a way it is. But then we get down to some kind of real world stuff. What about my career? What about my job? What about how I invest my money? What about what I do with my time? What about all these other things that can wrap up into this that people are out there giving you advice about? On every level of our life, guys, we should seek godly counsel. There are guys who are godly men in every area that you want to get advice on out there giving advice. We have financial advisors that will give you advice based on what God says and based on His principles, and career advice and everything else. There are ways to get godly counsel in all of this, and we need to do that. Then we also have standing in the way of sinners. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Get in the way of them sinners. Actually, what I was talking about is walking along with them. Standing in that same path that they're in. And I'm not saying that we are supposed to by the Word of God, be separated and don't have any contact with the rest of the world. Because we would not evangelize well if we did that. We have to actually contact other people. We have to come into contact with other people. You have people in the workplace, or you just, when you're shopping, you're going to encounter other people that might not have the same moral convictions that you do. What do we do with that? Well, I would say, according to this verse, one of the things we don't do is follow along with them. You know, it doesn't take a lot to be the man or woman of God in the room. It doesn't. Just stand on what you know is right. And people will respect that by and large, and some won't, but that's okay. When I umpired, I was in an environment that wasn't always a Christian environment. You know, when you get a tournament, you got 15 or 20 umpires in the same changing room in between games and swapping stories and doing stuff. And if any of them are watching this, I love you guys. But there were guys in there swapping stories I didn't need to be a part of. And sometimes I would change. Hey, that's where you change. So I would change, and I would leave. But you know, honestly, it didn't take too terribly long before, when I came in to do my change, I never said anything to anybody, but when I came in to change and everything else, the stories that were happening stopped. You know, the guys recognized and respected who I was and what I believed, and they responded accordingly. It wasn't like, ooh, the preacher came in the room, we got hush, but it was like we had respect for each other, and they chose to tell the stories in different ways. Be the godly influence while still being a person of love. We can do that. We don't have to follow along with the crowd just to show the crowd we love them. And I think that's a lot of what's being said here. And then there's another part here that says, or sits in the seat of scoffers. There's that attitude thing. You know, there are people that are just going to make fun of God, make fun of everything, and deny Him and even work against Him. And guys, we don't need to be part of that. You know, there are things we have to walk away from. Because if you don't, it gets on you. Just plain and simple. I mean, if you can't, if you're in a situation where like it's a work thing, you just got to be there, then be there. But when you can move away from these kind of things, we need to do that. Why? Because it says for us to be blessed, to feel that happiness and that joy in that power and presence of God in our life, we need to be away from that. Now, even if our life calls for us for a time to be around it, we need to seek that time when we can be away from it to get renewed. Because that period of time is going to be a drag on your life. It's going to weigh you down some. Be the Christian in the middle of it. Not because of our doctrines or teachings and because of how loud we can yell. But be the Christian as being the one who loves in the middle of stuff. Who is loving and forgiving. And is conscious to get away from things when they need to. These are some ways for us to be happy this year. Have that happy new year going on. Some ways to avoid, things to avoid, so that we can be happy. But here's the thing to do. You know, nature hates a vacuum. So if we're going to take some things away, or some things we shouldn't have going on in our life, we need to fill some space in. And, well, God knows that. He created us, and so He gave us verse 2. But the delight of this man is in the law of the Lord, and on His law he meditates day and night. I want you to think about that for a second. So what this happy, blessed, God-empowered man or woman, what they do not do is hang around the people with bad attitudes, do the things that are bad with them, or just be a presence in among them. That's what he doesn't do. Well, what does he or she do instead of that? Well, they delight in the law of the Lord. And on that law they meditate day and night. There's a circular thing that goes on with this if you want to look at happiness and things like that. And yes, the preacher is telling you need to read your Bibles. It's okay, I ended the year with that. I'm starting the year with that. I'll probably get back to it in the middle of the year. I want you to think about something. Any relationship you have ever had that is a relationship you cherish, did you have it and not know anything about that person that you were in a relationship with? And you guys talk, right? You communicate. Even if you're separated by miles and stuff like that, you can't see each other personally, which happens a lot these days. You write letters, you email, you text, you phone, you video conference, Zoom, whatever you got to do, right? It maintains that relationship. Because what happens if you don't maintain the relationship? Well, you don't have it. If you don't have some history of maintaining the relationship, you don't have it. How should our relationship with God be any different? Here's the thing, He wrote you a letter. 66 books worth of one. Larry mentioned a statistic he had read earlier today that close to 90% of Christians haven't read the Bible all the way through. Now, I don't expect you to do it in one sitting. And even doing it in a year is a rough thing, and if you want to embark on that, that's great. But in the last 5 years, have you read the whole thing? In the last 10 years, have you read the whole thing? There's stuff in there God wants you to know. I mean, think about the God of the universe packed everything you need to know about Him and your relationship to Him, and I would argue our relationship to God, our relationship within ourselves, and our relationship to others, all packed into 66 books. He took all in the universe you needed to know to get by, to know Him, to be able to relate to each other, all that you need. He put it in those 66 books. You got to figure every corner of that is something you need to know. Now, there are places like, you can think of, well, that might be kind of boring to read. And here's the circular nature of what verse 2 says. To delight in the law of the Lord. Well, don't we want to do the stuff that we delight in? But we want to do the stuff that makes us happy, right? You love going on four-wheeler rides, then what do you want to do? You want to go four-wheeler ride. If you love to fish and you're not fishing, then you want to go fishing. Well, if the law of the Lord, if the Word of God is what delights you, you're going to be drawn to do that with every free moment that you got. Or at least several of them. So then we get down to, well, how do I develop a delight in the law of the Lord? Now, before anybody hangs me for heresy here, I'm going to tell you, you got to work at it. I don't know too many people that are just born with, love the Word of God. Because a lot of people get a little sleepy when they read it. Because you're reading it wrong. I'm just going to tell you. You got to talk to God about it, and then read it. And see, now the preacher's telling you got to pray. Yeah, kind of. You see, we need to talk to the author of the book before we open the book. Ask him to show us stuff. I'm going to tell you, when I was first called to ministry, I didn't really love reading my Bible. I know. I'm admitting it. It was 25 years ago. I didn't really love reading. I read it, several parts of it, but I would get bogged down. I tried to read it regularly. I just couldn't do it. You know what fixed it for me? God. I asked Him. I was just messing around, going to church, because, I spent a lot of time not going to church, so I didn't have to listen to God talking to me. That's really, it helps some. But then when you mess around and go again, there He is, ready to talk to you again. And the more I went, the more He talked to me. And before I knew it, I was like being a counselor at Christian camp for the kids. And then I was teaching a class. And then He calls me to ministry. I'm like, God, I know I got to study Your Word, but I have such a trouble with it. with him, and I prayed about it several times too. And I'd read my Bible, and I'd pray about it, I'd read my Bible. And you know what? I love the Word of God. He shows me stuff every single time I open it. I mean, I would sit back, I would think I know a lot of stuff, but then I open the Bible, like, I didn't know that. He shows me all the time what I don't know. So for 25 years of in-depth study of His Word, He's still doing that to me. I imagine He'd do that for just about anybody. So how do we get a delight in the law of the Lord? Well, one of the things we do to get there is to meditate it on it day and night. Because as you study it, as you pray to Him, and then as you read it, and you put it into you, and you stop and you meditate on it, think about that for a while, dwell on it, just based in the Word of God for a little bit, you're going to want to get back there and get some more. You're going to start delighting in that time that you set aside to meditate in His Word. And you see, the doing it is going to feed the desire to do it some more. Try it. Come back and tell me I'm wrong. But when we don't do it, that desire wanes. So that's why he pairs this together in the same verse. You know, that delight is based on the doing, and the doing is based on the delight. And once you get that ball rolling, you're going to be going. But like any new habit or thing in our life, we have got to intentionally do it some. You've got to plan a time. You've got to plan a place. Not for all of your prayer life, but some of your prayer life. You've got to plan a time and a place where you're going to study the Word. Because most of the time, if you don't plan for it, it doesn't happen. You know, there are forces in our world that would love to drag you away from anything good of God. And if we don't intentionally get after the things of God, the things of the world will pile in and take up our day. Now look what it says, if you accomplish that. If you pull off verse 2, just this, if you will meditate on the law of God, on His Word, day and night, you know, maybe Spurgeon had a morning and an evening time that he had a devotion. If you make that this joy, this thing in your life you do, allow that to be that wheel that goes around for you. This is what happens. He's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf doesn't wither. In all that he does, he prospers. And you can think there's all this stuff out there. There's all these rules that maybe you should follow, and this and that. And there's all these other passages of the Bible to read and everything else. But think about it, guys. If you do what verse 2 says, verse 3 happens. If you will incorporate God's Word into your heart, into your life, like it matters to you, like it's important to you, like your life depends on it, because kind of your spiritual life does. If you'll do that, look what he says here. You'll be established. That's what that planted means. You'll be solid in what you believe because you're going to know what you believe. Because God's been talking to you. You've been talking to Him. You've been letting Him talk to you through the Word and through that prayer life. You'll be solid, standing on the ground. You'll be fruitful. It did not even say in verse 2 that you need to go out and do outreach, that you need to go out and evangelize. You've got to go do anything else. But you're going to read other places in God's Word where He says, you know what? Your witness before men matters. But you're going to get there. You're going to read that. You're going to delight in that. You're going to start thinking, I need to let my light shine. And before long, there's fruit coming out of your life. You stand solid on the ground, and there's fruit coming out of your life. You're not going to, the leaf doesn't wither. You're not going to shrivel up as a Christian and become ineffective. The longer you spend in His Word. Doing this, meditating on it. You'll be solid, you'll be fruitful, you'll sustain as a Christian. Then it says, in all that He does, He prospers. You're going to find success in those things that you touch. Those things that you touch are going to be successful, not because of how awesome you are. Because you are getting bathed in the Word of God in the morning and at night, and you are delighting in getting back to His Word, and you are just letting Him show you something new every day. From that, you're fruitful, and from that, you prosper. A lot of people want prosperity, they want fruitfulness, but they don't want to do work at the front end. The work at the front end is saying no to all these other things, and saying, yes, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at the Word of God. And I'm thinking, well, preacher, how long should I spend? I'm glad you asked. Now, I want you to think about it for a second. You got 24 hours in a day, right? Now, the principle of tithing is 10%, right? So out of 24 hours, let's just make a nice even number, like 20, okay? Let's just say 20 hours, because I can do math like that. 10% of that's 2 hours. So 2 hours a day you give to God. Ooh, preacher, that's a lot. Okay. You know, some people, when they tithe, they do it after taxes, so let's just do it. We'll take the sleeping part out, okay? You're sleeping for 8 hours a day. That gives you 16. Well, let's make it easy. Let's just say, 15. 10% of that's an hour and a half. You do an hour and a half a day? That might be a little hard too, right? What if you did the 15 minutes? What if you did 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon? But you did it solidly. You planned it. You did it. You executed it. You were faithful to it. What if you just did 15 minutes and gave it to God? I mean, we are way short of what even tithing our time would look like. But what if, and I'm going to get to that, but what if you just took 15 minutes in the morning and 15 in the afternoon? And if that's too much, what if you did 10? What if you did something, guys? If you're not, what if you started doing something that you committed to doing to God in the morning, in the evening, where you're in His Word? I don't care if you read a verse. I promise you, you do that solidly for a while, you're going to be reading 2, 3, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're going to get to where you're banking more time because you want to be there. But it has to start in order to do anything. It's okay if you grow it up. It's all right. But start. Encourage your friends to start. If you got something going, I'm telling you the truth. Encourage your friends to do that. Be that kind of person that is fruitful. Now, when we're talking about that time devoted to God and all that, it's okay. You don't have to worry about that hour and a half or that 2 hours because you're supposed to give it all to Him anyway. From the minute you wake up until you put your head down, you should some way or other be honoring your God. So, I know that might be a little tough, but start with 5 minutes. Verse 4 says this. Here's the deal. We talked about the man who is blessed, the righteous man, the happy man. Now here's the other end of the equation. In verse 4, the wicked are not so. They're not planted solidly. They're like chaff, and the wind drives them away. There's no sustainability in them. Oh, they may have influence, they may have outreach because plagues spread. I'm just going to tell you. We know that. And don't make any mistake, wickedness in this world is a plague too. And it's consumed way more lives than what we're looking at right now. It spreads, but the individual's shriveled up and blown away. Verse 5 says, therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, or sinners in the congregation of the righteous. There's going to be a separation, guys. Just plain and simple. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. I know, you look around at the world, it looks like evil wins. But there's a lot longer picture that God is looking at than ours. The one He's looking at, righteousness wins. His righteousness. And when we start talking about eternity, the righteous are the team to be on. There's going to be a separation. Now, in one way, that should be comforting for us. But there's another way, guys, that should be a challenge to us. There are people that don't know Jesus out there. If they die, they're going to hell. I don't say that to be mean. I say that because that's what the Bible teaches. There's only one way to eternal life, and that's Jesus. It matters that we let that word out. It matters that we be that light in the world. It matters that we are ready to answer questions. Oh, hey, that comes back to us actually knowing answers. Back to being in our Bibles again. Now, I know it's easy for you to use your phone a friend option and call your preacher. It's okay. But how about if you're the guy that knows the answer right there on the spot when the guy asks you? How about that? You're the one that God put in that situation. You're the one that knows the answer. You can give it to him right then and there. And like I said, it's okay. Call me for whatever. But what if it was you in the moment and you're ready? You can be. If you let God guide where you're reading, let him show you that stuff, he knows what's happening tomorrow. He'll prepare you for it if you let him. So as we step into this new year, I just want to remind you, we need to pray. We need to study our Bibles. Light in the Lord. And you need to pray again. And you need to repeat the process. I ask you to stand, and I'm going to close you with this. Psalms 19:14 says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." That's when you just pray about this for a minute. Now, where are you at in this whole thing I've been talking about? Have you got a time set aside for prayer and Bible study in your life? Fantastic. Is there room to up that a little bit? You talk to God. Are you getting saturated in the Word? Are you doing anything to get it out? Are you intentionally loving other people? What does God have for you? Just talk to him. If you need that time, if you don't have a time, if you kind of like reading the Bible when you get a chance to kind of thing, nothing wrong with that, except it'll benefit you more if you'll read it more often. Verse 2 makes really specific promises to you. If you will, delight in the law of the Lord and meditate on it day and night. If you let God get hold of you, just let him get hold of all of you. He'll turn your life around. Even if it's already going pretty good, he's going to make it even better. You talk to him about it.